So here we have, among other things, my Triantha occidentalis. It's, I've grown it for about, what is it, August? So I've grown it about 8 or 9 months. I started with seed. These are from Washington State, actually, not the kind that most people have. Got some more over here. Ignore the volunteer Drosera filiformis here. Yeah, I've got probably around 20 or so. I did an experiment when I started out with pure peat, peat vermiculite, and pure sphagnum. They seem to greatly prefer the pure sphagnum. There's a couple here in the peat vermiculite, but they don't seem to enjoy the pure peat very well, I found. So I've got this big one here. This is my biggest one, growing in pure sphagnum moss. It's doing good. It's putting out, looks like some more mature growth here. As far as growing these guys, they don't seem to be too difficult, but they also don't seem to be too easy either. From what I've noticed, they seem to grow very slowly, at least at first. They seem to focus more on putting down roots at first than growing leaves, which is quite different from most carnivorous plants. I wouldn't say these guys are as hard as Darlingtonia, but I would say their care requirements are somewhat similar. They do not like it warm. If you look at this guy, which I need to weed. I need to weed this guy. But if you look in there, you can see it's got quite a bit of leaf damage from when I experimented with it growing in the lowland tent. I've got a tent for lowland conditions. Got some lowland penthes there, Clipiata, Truncata, Amorphophallus titanum, some various other lowland plants, and Calcarata down there with Anaphilaria. That's not important. But I experimented with growing it in there for a while. I don't think it was in any danger of dying, but it certainly didn't do very well in there, so it doesn't seem to enjoy it particularly hot. So my suggestion would be, okay, so I have to explain that this is totally just based on my specific plants. I have very limited data set. It's just these specific plants from this specific location, which is different than the normal Oregon ones that most people have. These are from Washington State, the mountains. But yeah, they seem to more enjoy it cool and nice. I have these growing with the Highland Nepenthes right now. Right now they're getting probably about 85 to 90 maximum during the day, and then it probably more like 85 maximum during the day. They're kind of still in front of the swamp cooler, but then it drops down with the air conditioner to about 65 to 70 at night. Not ideal Highland conditions, but the Highlanders don't seem to mind. Hamada is making a picture. Loey is growing like crazy. Yeah. So I basically just have them growing as Highland Nepenthes, but with more light. They're almost right below the big light here. It's probably about 3.5 feet under that. Plus they get filtered natural light through the greenhouse roof. It's a 30% shade cloth on top of a 40% shade cloth? Or is it 40% on top of 40%? I don't remember. It's quite restricted on natural light, but there's still a good amount of natural light that gets through, plus the artificial light. So they get a good amount of light, as you would want them to. They're open meadow plants. This one here looks like it's got some pretty solid growth coming out now. They seem to grow in stages for me. They put out a few leaves, then they don't do much. They put out a few more leaves, and they don't do much. I found it's really simple to grow, if you just give it highland to intermediate in these conditions. And yeah, probably need dormancy as well, but yeah, pretty simple to grow, but very slow growing. Relatively straightforward to start from seed. I did a sort of Sarracenia style stratification, and most of the seeds sprouted within like a week to 8 days, so pretty easy to start from seed. Most of the ones over here that I put in the sphagnum moss germinated and are still alive, so that would be what I would recommend, pure sphagnum moss for these guys. That seems to be what works for me. Might not be what works for you, but that's what I would do again. But yeah, just gotta be patient with these guys. They're slow growers. They put on a lot of size in the past 8 months, but I think these are more of a they're not as slow growing as Darlingtonia, but they're pretty darn slow growing. And the fan in the tent kicked on. I'm gonna zip that back up. Yeah, they seem to be pretty easy to grow. Just be sure to give them intermediate to highland conditions and plenty of light, and of course sitting in a tray of water because they're bog to marsh plants, montane bogs. Basically just treat them like Darlingtonia, but they're easier to grow. That's what I would say. It's hard to say when they'll flower. I have no experience with these. I'm not sure anybody does. Yeah, they might flower next year. They might probably more likely the year after that. Maybe even the year after that. I'm not entirely sure. It probably depends on the genetics of each plant. I have some that are still tiny, like this guy. And of course I got some that are massive, like this guy. And this guy. Yeah, my goal with these guys long term is to get breeding them, get them distributed out, so we don't have to take any more from the wild. I'm not entirely sure what species this is. I'll probably not know that until they flower. Probably Bravistula, I would say, considering the location. But we'll know when it flowers. So yeah, that's how I grow Triantha occidentalis.